Michael, Matt, thanks for coming back. So much for downtime during the holidays. We have quite a controversy going on with Elon Musk and HB1. And, my first thoughts with it, I'm going to share this with you guys. First of all, I don't know why anybody's surprised that Elon and big tech is not caring about the regular people, right? I mean, they're interested in, what's in their, what is going to serve them best. But what I find, what's crazy to me about all this is, do you think Elon realized the amount of venom he was going to get on X because of it? Because all of a sudden he's put himself into a hole. Laura Loomer, he stripped her of her blue badge. She can't get subscriptions. She's limited now on her posts and video lengths, and there are other people too.
I heard her on Bannon today, and she's on the warpath. She's always on the warpath.
You messaged me about it too. Yeah. I mean, let's face it. What's his favorite drug now? Which one? Because, he's always talking about his drugs and stuff. What's it that, he loves to smoke the dope, right? And what's that other one that he takes to get rid of his stress? What's that one called? What's it called? He was just talking about it the other day. Anyway, he's a druggie, right? And so why does President Trump take advice from a druggie on visas? Seriously. I mean, the guy is not... Elon Musk has no loyalty to the United States. He's a stateless migrant. He's just a dog. He's just a dog.
He's a cosmopolitan, just like the tech bros from India.
Yeah.
They're just going where they'll get a paycheck and can get a passport eventually, and then bring all their family in.
Yeah. And having spent about a year in India and another year in Nepal, I can assure you, you don't want 100 million Indians in the United States because they're incredibly racist. I enjoyed India, but Indians watching this, it's true. You can say whatever you want. It's true.
If it's a pure meritocracy, once Indians gain control of a corporation or a tech company's HR department and recruiting department, somehow they only recruit Indians. They're not seeking Taiwanese or, Nepalese. It's all Indians after that.
Oh, blacks, Hispanics, Chinese, Japanese, you will have zero chance. White folks too. It'll be Indians, right? And that's just the way it goes. And that's the way many of the cultures are that we're bringing in. Many. Keep in mind, again, I'll say it again for the 100th time, I spent most of my life downrange, most of my life out of the United States. Right now I'm in Panama, right? And it's highly racist here as well. I mean, that's just normal. It's just normal to be racist in most of the world. Only in the United States and Europe have people been emasculated to the point where they're not even allowed to recognize it. You're not even allowed to say that the most racist people I've ever seen on planet Earth are communist Chinese and black Americans. You're not allowed to say that, despite the fact that I've lived it, and it's just the way that it goes.
Yeah, people need to realize that there are now more people in the Indian subcontinent than in China. And so those two small countries, which are each smaller than the continental United States, 48 states. So we're currently up to like 350 million plus or minus, or at plus 20, 30 million illegals. But officially, I think we're at like 345 million. And that's number 3 on the planet. It's a big jump from India and China, which are like a 1.5 billion each. So India and China is 3 billion out of 8 billion. And China and India don't have a lot of nice land to develop into. There's not like a lot of, arable China left for those people. And same thing with India. So they're looking, it's all diaspora now. And to them, America is like the best combination of, hey, only 345 million? That's nothing. 100 million of us can fit into America, and it'll be 450 million. That's still a third the population density of where I came from. So have no mistake. If 10% of India moves to America, that's 150 million. And the thing about H-1B visas, people have to understand, sure, it's indentured servitude. The corporations control them. So the corporation, after 3 years, gets to re-up you for another 3 years. They re-up you if you're servile and dedicated and work 80 hours a week and you live 10 to an apartment, sleeping on foam on the floor. Then you get re-upped for another 3 years. After that, though, you can get your green card. And that's nothing for people like, that are trying to escape a hellish situation. 6 years living on a mattress, working 80 hours a week. Green card means family reunification. That's the daisy chain migration. Once you got your green card, you're on the path to citizenship. Then it's like, hey, I can bring my whole village. We're all related. And every one of those that comes in, chain migration. So people that are saying, Bracken, you're crazy. There will never be 100 million Indians in America.
Oh, yes, there will. Oh, yes, there will. I see them coming through the Darien Gap, like flooding through. Oh, yes, there will.
How long has this been going on for, guys? Like, this is the other thing, too. It's like this is hitting mainstream now. This has been going on for a very long time.
It started under George Herbert Walker Bush when tech companies thought, there's going to be a shortage of STEM graduates, so we're going to have to make some way to get more STEM people from around the world. But from the get-go, it was exploited by corporations to just, replace American workers with foreign tech workers at half or a third of the price. And the proof of it is, in so many cases, the American engineers have to train their replacements. I mean, that's like salt.
That's what
in the
happened
wounds.
here at the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal is right out my window. Well, this is the backside. The Panama Canal is out that direction. I mean, you might hear a ship go by. Sometimes they beep their horns when they go through Miraflores locks. I'm right by Miraflores locks. That's what happened here as well. I mean, the United States built the canal and actually made Panama out of Colombia. We sponsored it to break off, and then Jimmy Carter gave it away
for $1.
Yep. All about the banksters. That's what it was all about. There's a excellent part in the Creature from Jekyll Island about why the Panama Canal was given away. It had nothing to do with, this was Panama's canal. It wasn't Panama, but now it is.
Yeah,
Panama.
there wasn't even a Panama.
There wasn't even a Panama. But now, actually, Panama has put billions of dollars into the canal now. So it's not the same canal that we gave to them. Now, like right out this side over here, there's the Neo-Panamax Canal too that the Panamanians built, and with their money, and so that's allowed the throughput.
But most of the digging for that was done like 80 years ago, 90 years ago.
Longer than that. It opened up in 1914.
No, I mean the new super canal. Most of the actual earth excavation for that was done soon after the original canal, but the Congress punted the funding for it and said there'll never be ships that big, and jungle just overgrew it. But when people started thinking about enlarging the canal, it was like, wow, who knew this? Most of the digging for the bigger locks was already done. It was just
through the canal. You went through the canal with your own handmade boat.
Right. Yeah. I've been through 3 times on a boat. 3 times.
On your own boat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael,
it's a great experience. And back when America used to be at Fort Clayton, which is now UN invasion headquarters.
I'm in Fort Clayton.
Right.
I'm talking about that's Fort Clayton out my window.
Yeah. Fort Clayton used to be America's headquarters for defending America's interests in the American Panama Canal Zone. The treaty would, first of all, people have to understand there was no country of Panama, right? Colombia had the poorest province, which was above the Darien Gap, which nobody cared about. America saw an opportunity and did basically a color revolution in Panama circa early 1900s, created the flag, created everything about it, carved Panama off of Colombia. They were in no position to refuse it, didn't care anyway. It was above the Darien Gap. So we created the country of Panama. There was no country of Panama. The Americans provided the engineers and the the financial backing, and the actual digging and demolition and hands-on labor work was done by Black West Indians. This is all in McCulloch's first book, which won a Pulitzer Prize for his first book, called The Path Between the Seas, which we've both read and highly recommend. Great book. But so Black Barbadians and Jamaicans did the grunt work. American engineers and crane operators did the tech work, and America built the canal. And the treaty we made with the country we made, so we made a country, made a treaty with the country, and said the canal zone will be an American territory in perpetuity. So the poorest province of Colombia will leapfrog past Colombia into the 20th century, way ahead of Colombia, Mexico, anywhere. And it's funny, this all comes out of that McCulloch book. When they had the malaria, the yellow fever, they figured out it was the mosquito. That all goes back to American doctors.
Gorgas.
But they figured out sanitation. The bean counting Americans said, well, then let's just do the sanitation right around the canal zone. And the more enlightened Americans said, that won't work. The mosquitoes don't honor those boundaries. We got to bring hygiene and sanitation to the whole country. Electricity, plumbing, indoor plumbing, pipes, everything for the country.
Speaking of which, that's why you can drink the water out of the tap here in Panama, but I don't know many other countries in the world that can do that.
So Panama, a country which America created by basically color revolutioning the poorest province of Colombia, to say, hey, wouldn't you like to be an independent country? Bootstrap onto America. We'll build a canal. You'll have an economy, which you do not have now, because you're like this malarial pestilence zone. You'll have an economy. And what we want is this zone in forever, in perpetuity. That's the treaty. So we'll create you a country, give you an economy, build a canal, and we'll protect the canal. Jimmy Carter gave that away for $1. And the treaty came into effect around 1999. I mean, so when Carter did it, it didn't immediately kick over. It was like the Hong Kong treaty with Britain. It was like, you sign it, but it's going to happen 20 years later. So Panama owns the canal, but China is taking over Panama. And either America or Panama is going to control the Panama Canal. And right now, it's not looking good for America.
Matt, what was the thought process of Jimmy Carter giving it away? I mean, ironically, we're talking about him because he passed away yesterday. Before you comment on that, what are your two thoughts on Jimmy Carter as a president?
I like Habitat for Humanity restores. I mean, his Habitat for Humanity houses are crap and they fall down and everybody hates them. I like the Habitat for Humanity restore concept really a lot, where builders bring their extra stuff in and people can buy sheetrock and screws and hinges cheap. But, Jimmy Carter believed that the Ayatollah Khomeini was like another Baptist minister that he could deal with. And if we just get rid of this mean Shah, right, sort of like, it's very similar to getting rid of mean Assad or mean the leader of Iraq,
Hussein,
what's his face?
Saddam.
Yeah, Saddam's really mean. Assad's really mean. The Shah's really mean. Let's get rid of them and bring in like a Baptist minister. That's what they're telling me. He's sort of like a strict Muslim. That's fine. So Jimmy Carter brought in the Ayatollahs, and we're dealing with that forever since then. Jimmy Carter, looking at Panama, said, it's just not right. We're so rich and they're so little. Let's give them the canal. But there was no country called Panama. We took the poorest province of Colombia. Color revolution did, okay, you can argue about, is that right or wrong? But somebody was going to build a canal there. The French tried, they failed. Okay?
Like Hawaii, somebody was going to get it.
Right. Yeah, Hawaii, somebody was going to get Hawaii. and we just flat out stole Hawaii. So I laugh when people.
But then again, Hawaiians stole it from the people before them too. So
But
whatever.
I totally
There
laugh.
you go. You know what I mean? If you want to go into the layers of sediment here.
But I totally laugh at people that say like, "Oh, Russia invaded Crimea."
Matthew,
are you kidding me?
Listen, I'm going to claim Bermuda. You know, my uncle was born on Bermuda in 1609, and they named him Bermudus, Eason. My mother's family name is Eason, Eason. So if I go by Jewish rules, that's the Bermuda Islands are mine. There was no natives there before. So that's my direct family line. I'm going to consult a lawyer. I'm going to go ahead and claim Bermuda. I'm going to kick everybody off or charge them rent. And I'm going to go by Chinese and Jewish rules. It's just mine. How's that?
Yeah, I seen the Chinese
No, I just
announcements
gotta
on
get rid of
Panama.
them.
The Chinese announcements
and the
on
British. Bermuda is still a British protectorate, right? It's the longest standing one because of the shipwreck that caused my uncle to be born there. Because of that shipwreck in 1609, the name of the ship was the Sea Venture, and then they finally made it to Jamestown in 1610 when they made another boat out of cedar.
Yeah, they did a Flight of the Phoenix, like the two great movies called The Flight of the Phoenix, where one with Dennis Quaid and one with James Stewart, where the plane crashes in the desert and they have to like scavenge parts off the plane to make a smaller plane to fly out. That is actually the story of Bermuda. The shipwreck, they salvaged their main ship, built an entirely new small ship, and made it to Jamestown.
Yep.
And when they got to Jamestown, they were like, "You guys are all starving. We had it great on Bermuda. We're going back to Bermuda."
Yeah, and actually, that's why Bermuda now is the longest, British protectorate. I mean, but again, my uncle Bermudus with an S on the end of Bermuda, and actually his godfather married Pocahontas, according to the book The Sea Venture.
John Smith.
That's right. That was his godfather.
Yeah. John Smith was a badass. I mean, he also did like the Lewis and Clark of the entire Chesapeake Bay, paddling a canoe when, with English and Indians, all of the rivers all the way up to Pennsylvania. People don't even realize that. But John Smith wasn't just like Pocahontas's, main squeeze. He actually mapped the whole Chesapeake region.
Yeah, I think what you're going to end up seeing is a lot of these fights, like obviously Israel, or let's say Zionistan, is going for the Suez Canal as well, right? And what you're going to find out here is this is going to be a fight in Panama, just like I was just down in Argentina for almost 2 months. That's going to be a fight between Zionists and Chinese. Because keep in mind, Buenos Aires is one of the biggest Jewish cities in the world, and so is Panama City, right? And so where I'm at now in Panama City, right? And so, I mean, this is very Zionist controlled, actually, Panama is, and Argentina. A lot of people don't get that. I went to CPAC in Argentina just recently because it was down the road from where I was at. And they opened CPAC with Viva Argentina, Viva United States, and Viva Israel, right? And, what's his name? The fast-talking guy at Daily Wire. What's the guy's name?
Shapiro.
Yeah, Shapiro, the jab pushing, the fast-talking jab pusher. He was there and spoke and that sort of thing, and he didn't
Musk has a 200 IQ, and he took the jab, right? I believe
Musk is obviously an idiot and an actor. I mean, he's a druggie. Do you really think he's really doing all that space stuff? That guy's a clown, man. He's just he's not even a top-rate actor.
Hey, I want to get back to Musk.
We're starting to see through him.
I want to get back to Musk, but I want to go to Argentina and what you said about Argentina and Panama and these factions that are really fighting in the background. We tend to think of a country, Panama, there's the borders, there's the flag, Panamanian people. That's who's there. Argentina, there's the border, there's the flag, Argentina people, that's who's there. But in reality, there's a whole nother dimension of all of this going on. You've got the Chinese coming into all of these countries. So in the smoky back room of all of these countries that we don't see, we just see the front office. We see the storefront plate glass window on Main Street. Oh, Argentina. Oh, Panama. But in the back room, the people that come in from the alley are the Israeli types, the Chinese communists, all, the tech oligarchs. These are the people that are really fighting for control of this territory. And the people in the countries are like the people in Romania or Georgia. They're just being color revolutioned right and left and have very little to do with anything.
Speaking of Romania, the guy that was, that was, probably going to win the election, Kalin Georgescu, he contacted me a couple of weeks ago, and I talked with him. I actually interviewed him, and I got him set up on some other interviews, and that was basically he didn't want to have NATO. You know who I'm talking about, right? That he almost
I watched him. I watched him with Doug Casey and Matt Smith.
Yeah, I introduced him. Yeah, and so he reached out to me. Georgescu did. And I talked with him. I introduced him to Matt and Doug Casey.
Got to get him on Coffee and a Mic, Michael. We got Matt Bracken, Michael YON, and myself.
They're building the biggest NATO
I'll
base.
introduce you to him. I know. I just helped somebody big that's going over there right now. You'll see it in the news soon.
We're building the world's biggest NATO base. It's like Frankfurt. I mean, we're building the biggest NATO base in Romania, and it will control. And I got to give props to George McMillan for pointing all this out. When they, this is like an amazing story 30 years ago. You can take barges from the Netherlands to the Black Sea over the Rhine-Main-Danube Canal. So it doesn't sound like, they're not like super tankers, but if you have a lot of these small refined fuel tankers, that's huge for Central Eastern Europe, the Rhine-Main-Danube Canal. Well, America and NATO are going to control Romania, just like absolutely make it like a Panama.
Yeah, Matthew, and also UN, IOM, and UNHCR are flooding Romania with Ukrainians and others. Like I asked Mr. Georgescu when he, contacted me, the guy that was running for president. He contacted me. I said, "Hey, man, I heard your country is being overrun now with Ukrainians and others from the UN." He's like, "Oh yeah, they're doing that too."
We need trackers on Samantha Powers, Victoria Nuland, Jake Sullivan. We need they need to be wearing ankle GPS monitors because where these guys go,
economic hitmen.
Right, and the same thing on the other side of the Black Sea, Georgia. They're depending on who wins the election and who we want. It's a good election or it was a fake election. And they just completely, re-rig it or de-rig it.
Yeah, I went to Georgia about a year and a half ago or so, in Armenia as well.
With Chuck, right? With
Chuck and Masako, and it was very interesting. And Chuck didn't go to Georgia, but we went to Armenia with Chuck, and I would recommend Armenia for everyone.
Chuck Colton.
Yeah, Chuck Colton. I just talked with Chuck today, actually, and he lives in Panama, and so he's quite concerned. As soon as I saw Trump's statement, I thought, wow, it looks like Trump's trying to cause a massacre against Americans here. Now, that can cause people to explode, but I assure you that Americans who live in Panama were ringing my phone off the hook as soon as Trump started saying these things. They started worrying about getting massacred.
Yeah, there was an American
for people that don't know, Matt and Michael, what did Trump say that put them in danger?
What was his exact words? Do you remember? But as soon as I read them, I was like, well, that could cause a problem. Luckily, it's Christmas time and New Year's.
Pasovic has been totally amplifying it. And Jack
Pasovic is such a dirty clown. I have invited him down here multiple times. And finally, when he was amplifying that, you're right, Matthew, when he started amplifying that, I'm like, that's enough. First of all, it's a lie. What Trump is saying is a lie. 38,000 Americans didn't die here. That's utter bullshit. Didn't happen, period. It was fewer than about 400 Americans, and the rest were from all over the world. Anyway, and it was not 38,000. But the bottom line is, Trump can't breathe without lying. And there's people that will back him up no matter what. Winners come back with medals. Losers come back with excuses like, oh, Fauci made me do it. You know what I mean? With the jabs and stuff. Fauci did it. It's little Fauci. He's bullet stopping Fauci.
Yeah, going back to the last.
The winners come with wins. Losers come with excuses. And Trump clearly looks like he's trying to create casus belli to create a massacre here.
Yeah, Chuck Holton, this is the benefit of being a boomer, okay? There's not many, but this is one. You have a long memory, okay? Chuck Holton was actually an airborne ranger and parachuted into Panama for Operation Just Cause, which was nicknamed Operation Just Because, because we can do it. But the casus belli for Operation Just Cause was some Americans trying to go onto the base. This is in the Noriega era. Some Americans off base driving back onto the base got hassled and like strip searched or patted down, supposedly by some Noriega soldiers. And this was fanned by, even in those days, right-wing media fanned this. And look, I'm a big fan of right-wing media.
It was more than that. I mean, one of them got killed. I think it was a lieutenant. His wife may have been raped. I'm not sure about that. But the lieutenant was killed. And as soon as he was killed, people were like, hey, that'll be enough of that, and the next thing you know, they were parachuting in. It's interesting because Chuck, his first trip to Panama was shooting up the place, and now he lives here.
With a parachute.
With a parachute, yeah.
Yeah, gun, parachute.
Yeah. Now he flies in.
Right. Yeah, he flew in a C-130.
Yeah, now he flies in actually uses the wheels.
Right. It's a great country. I don't want to see it misused again. Look, even though we made it, I'm making fun of it because we literally did carve it off of Colombia. And as you have spoken about,
Panama is an important partner, but somebody is going to take it. It's a giant pork chop around their neck. I'm literally sitting on one of the most strategic little places of land on planet Earth. I'm literally sitting on it right now. And the Panama Canal is right that direction. This is Fort Clayton, right? This is the old U.S. Army South headquarters. It's now more than 60 NGOs, including the UN. The UN, by the way, speaking of which, if Trump is dead serious about closing our borders, and Homan contacted me the other day, by the way. He called me about 2 or 3 days ago, I guess. Anyway, but if you want to close the border, if he's serious about closing the border, the first thing that you're going to do is close these NGOs. This is a sovereign country, but we can cut off their funding in the United States. We can cut off the United Nations funding, and we can start arresting people who are smuggling children and whatnot. We can do that. If we don't, he's not serious. He's just not serious. This plan that the clown Posobiec put up yesterday, I think it was, these are the steps we got to do. He didn't mention closing down. He didn't mention defunding the United Nations, right? He didn't mention that at all.
The last thing we want to do.
But let me finish off. We can put out fires all day long, but if we don't put out the arsonist, the fires will continue. The arsonist, I'm sitting in their headquarters. I am in their headquarters right now. This is their theater headquarters of Central and South America, is right here in the city of knowledge, which is old Fort Clayton. If we don't stop these guys, they are the arsonist. It will continue. Okay,
it's a total misdirection, because the last thing the United States wants is to turn center front the Panamanian special forces, essentially their frontier police,
very serious
into our enemies. They are our allies. They're enemies,
strong allies and highly professional.
And our enemies have occupied our headquarters. It's like somebody snuck in and took a brain out and put an enemy brain in. Fort Clayton was American headquarters for America defending the canal. It's turned into the UN enemy headquarters for invading America using the canal and turning the canal over to communist China. The stupidest plan is to try to create a casus belli like for Operation Just Cause, so that we can get an anger hate on for Panamanians. The Panamanians are not our enemy, but they're resilient, tough bastards. And if we go in heavy, like it's, Reagan era, it's going to be a huge mistake. We can win this country, but not the way Posobiec is postulating. And Trump needs much better
But Suffolk's a
advisors.
child. Everybody tries to build him up that he's some big naval intelligence officer. He's a clown. I mean, the guy doesn't do anything. He doesn't go down here. He doesn't come see these things. He reads reports. He sounds highly intelligent. But at the end of the day, he's just another actor. He's an actor.
Ben Bergquam and Oscar Blue have walked the Darien Gap backwards and forwards, filming every second of it. And they should be getting Pulitzer Prizes. But the people that never go there, they're...
Chuck actually went after Ben today. He mentioned, because people are going after Chuck now because Chuck is like, listen, Chuck has called Trump a liar about what the things that he said about Panama. And it's true. Trump has lied again.
Chuck Holton.
Yeah,
Chuck Holton.
Chuck Holton. And Chuck is accurate. I mean, I called him up after I saw his interview. Not interview. He did a podcast, just a monologue. And I called him up and I said that was accurate. And you took a swipe at Ben Bergquam, actually, because people are going after Chuck and saying, oh, you're going after Trump now. And they're canceling him the way people have canceled me for so long. My readership cutting up. I don't care, man. Listen, you think I'm going to carry water for Trump? He's pushing drugs in Florida with Amendment 3. He pushed the jab. He's pushing. I don't think he's going to close the border. It's just not adding up. The H1, the visas here and all these sorts of things. I'm not seeing it. He put in basically Zionistan as his cabinet. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously. But what Chuck said today was, if you want somebody that's always basically going to support Trump no matter what, watch Ben Bergquam. Now, Ben has gone through the gap very courageously. I've been out with Ben on a lot of different places in Arizona and down here, and my phone is ringing. But at the end of the day, Ben will always support Trump no matter what he does. So, I mean, in that regard, he can't be relied upon about what's happening in the Darien Gap.
Right, but his footage that does show the picture. But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of people that are moving up the media ladder, and a lot of people will do what they perceive that they have to do to, move from stringer in the field to anchor and.
Not me. I never did. Look at my coverage and all the wars and all that stuff. I've always told the truth as I could find it. And look at my record on how it's turned out. It's amazingly accurate. I mean, a few swings and misses, but mostly highly accurate. For instance, on going after General McChrystal, going after General Menard, calling the general direction of the Iraq and Afghan wars way in advance. In 2006, back when everybody thought the Afghan war was lost, or won, I was over there and I did 12 major dispatches in 2006 saying we appear to be losing the war. And now look what's happened. There was a short term of brightness that I saw in about 2010 or so, somewhere around that time frame. And then finally I said, you know what, that's it. We're going to lose the war. We're not serious about it. I'm tired of getting into firefights and all this nonsense for get your legs blown off for a bunch of clown foolery here. And I left. So I went and watched the coups in Thailand, and that sort of thing. But the bottom line is, look what Trump did in Hong Kong. I was there in Hong Kong for 7 months as China took it. Trump never stood up for Hong Kong. Never. I was there until they kicked me out and put me on the airplane, right? We have abandoned things one by one. Americans aren't paying. There was more American flags on Hong Kong streets than I've ever seen American streets.
How many countries have you been kicked out of persona non grata by our own military in Afghanistan? They didn't want to hear it anymore.
Oh yeah, I was proud of that. But you know what I did? They didn't kick me out. People say they kicked me out.
Well, you can't get on a helicopter. You can't get on a base.
Who cares? So I was heading off base, and then the place I was going to got hit with a suicide bomb. That was April, maybe 12th or 18th, 2000 and something. And you can see I published about it. McChrystal was kicking me off, and I'm about to go off to this place I was going to stay in Kandahar, and I got hit with a suicide truck and killed people there. And so I went to another place. So I was like, well, I went over to, since the house I was going to got flattened, I went over to Jalalabad. So I stayed in the country. So the 2 years I was in Afghanistan, I was 1 year with British forces, U.S. forces, and Afghans and Lithuanians. And the other year I was out running around with tribal people. I mean, I spent a year, the 2 years I spent in Afghanistan, a year of it, I was just running around Call of the Wild. And that, and I figured out what was going on out there. And guess what? The Marines I would run into Marines and Army guys out there, and they would see me. They would be like, hey, let's get a photo. We got an intel report that you're here. You're crazy. What are you doing? I'm like, let me tell you what. Let me tell you how many times I've been shot at when I'm alone. 0. But when I'm with you, the MRAPs are laying on the ground with doors blown off and everybody's dead. You know what I mean? We're in all these firefights.
That's why I always laugh when you say you got along great with Taliban farmers.
Oh, yeah, they're farmers, man. I was out with this one farmer one time in Helmand, and he, they're always rubbing their beard, and he had these aphids. He's showing me the aphids. I published some photos of this, and they were on his poppy, and he goes, American helicopters come at night and they put these insects on our plants. I said, no, sir, we don't do that. I mean, we should. I mean, you're growing drugs, but we don't. We're not that smart. And I remember he rubs his beard and he goes, yes, you're not that smart. He goes, let's go have tea. So, I went and had tea with him and stuff. And they always load it down with sugar. At some point, I'm just like, these are just farmers, man. Every country I go to, I can get along with farmers. Every single country, even communist farmers. Farmers are just farmers. You can get along with, what farmers always want to talk about? The rain. They want to talk about the bugs on the when some guy had on his pomegranate trees, he had yellow, he called it yellow, and he was asking for help, but he didn't know how to. He's like, I went over to Pakistan trying to find medicine. I've tried to get it from China. He's like, can Americans help me? I'm like, I don't know. Give me some of those leaves and I'll show them to our guys.
And this is real ground truth. This is something that I've picked up from you. Whether it's in the Netherlands or in Panama, just get down on the ground with farmers. It's ground truth, right? There's no politics. It's, can I get fertilizer? Can I sell my product? It's ground truth. And the same thing when Michael name drops about, meeting with national leaders. I mean, I was sitting in Chuck's house in Panama, and you showed me your phone. It's Petraeus texting you. And he's not even a person that you're like a big fan of, but you're in that circle. So when people
definitely in those circles somehow.
Yeah. When people are talking about, some reporters are trying to climb to New York or, get to the anchor desk, and some people are still out scratching for a living, doing donations. That's how Michael buys the plane tickets.
I don't even know how, as bad, all the bad stuff I say about Trump, which is pretty much every day, and yet his inner circles are constantly reaching out to me. In fact, this morning, Misako and I are helping to try to get, how much can I say here? Let's just say somebody whose name you definitely 100% know contacted me as he needs help inviting Prime Minister Abe's wife over to the inauguration, right? So this is how Trump circles are always reaching out to me. And so we got it, and Misako's in contact now, and maybe she'll come and stuff. I mean, they're constantly reaching out, and I help them.
I want people to understand something too, that watch this right now in the middle of this show. Michael flies a lot, and sooner or later, this self-funded singleton operation, he's going to be on a plane landing in damn Korea or somewhere, and it's going to be like, what happened to Michael YON? The light went out, it's turned off. Because you fly that much, man, that's as dangerous as flying helicopters in, the stands. So people, please appreciate. I got pulled off
the airplane a couple of weeks ago, about 10 days ago. I was down in Argentina. And so I just got back to Panama. I was down in Argentina, and I was sitting down with Misako. We were up near the Bolivian border in a place called Jujuy, Jujuy. We actually went to the Bolivian border, but anyway, because that's where the bi-oceanic corridor is that the Chinese are building. So I'm sitting down on the airplane, and they pulled me off the airplane, right? So go down the steps. Everybody else is on the airplane, and I go underneath the airplane. Nobody can see me, and there's a lady cop there, got her gun and all that. And she shows me, this is in Argentina, it's like 10 days ago. She shows me a picture of some bullets. And I'm like, not in my bag. And so, and I laughed, and she walked me off to the hangar, and they're opening up my bag, the one sitting right here. and didn't find anything, and then walked me back to the airplane. And it was a clear warning, right? I've had that happen before. That was like a warning. Somehow I've upset some people. You got to keep in mind.
But just the odds of, I mean, we flew in Panama in a Cessna Caravan, like a 30 or 40-year-old Cessna Caravan, a single engine with like 25 people in it, and the pilots were like 25 years old.
Yeah, I was going to be in a helicopter today, but the weather.
I was looking for that runway. It just looked like we were going to fly straight into the jungle, over the Caribbean into the jungle.
I remember.
And the runway doesn't show up till the last second. Michael takes a lot of chances to put
a video of that landing.
Yeah, to put his information out. Michael YON is actually in the field, so I'm just, it's the last day of 2024, so I'm sorry if I'm coming over heavy for the.
Wow, is this the last day? Yeah.
Or tomorrow.
Well, second to last. Yeah. Well, when this shows, I think this will probably show on the 31st.
Oh, probably later today. We got to get this one right out, don't you think?
Okay.
Right away, Matt. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's fine. But Michael is not somebody that's like talking from a home office like I am. He's actually, and every time you take one of these flights in these countries, I mean, look, Korea is a first world country, and look how they landed that airplane.
Yeah, you see the weather here, because I was trying to get a helicopter today to go do some stuff, and it's just bad.
Michael, did the administration,
3 days.
The people that have called you from the incoming administration, I don't know how much you can share, but did they give you any indication that they're interested in stopping any of this? Because I'm like you, I'm a skeptic with everything.
I think Homan is interested in. I've never talked to him before, but he called me up the other day, and he sounded interested. I think that he is. I'll help him out, of course. And there's others. I mean, there's others I think are very serious. But is Trump serious? I don't know. I mean, if he
hasn't said a word about
shutting the United Nations.
Trump hasn't said a word about H-1B.
Oh yeah, he's in support of it. He says that his properties employ a lot of them, and that I mean, I'm paraphrasing here.
This was in an article, but it was not in like direct Truth Social, posts.
Was it not?
He's like being quoted. But I don't think he's done direct Truth Social posts saying, yes, I support H-1B.
I was trying to look that up while you guys talk real quick.
But I'm very skeptical. I mean, that going back to we talked about Panama, and we've talked about international situations, but the tech bros, I think, they moved to Trump I think that they analyzed that Trump was going to win.
Hey,
I don't think that
Musk. Vandersteel.
Go ahead while you're talking, Matt. Because Matt
on live right now with Coffee and Mike and Matt Bracken. I'll see you later. She's actually in Panama.
Hi, Ann. Matt.
She's wondering where I'm at.
Matt, let me add something to that, and I want to get what your thoughts are after I share this with you, both of you guys, because it ties right into what you're saying, Matt. Because I believe that big tech, because look what they did, the havoc that they caused in 2020, right? With Zuckerberg and the drop boxes and Bezos, and everybody was against Trump and to get him removed. Now all of a sudden they're all cozying up to the point where leading into the election, Washington Post, LA Times, they wouldn't endorse anybody. Elon was all on board. You talk about Peter Thiel, right? Who was J.D. Vance was a protege of his that I still don't understand how he met him in law school
and somehow meets Vivek Ramaswamy and gets married to one of their friends and
names a kid Vivek. One of his kids is named Vivek.
Right.
One of his kids is named Vivek, and he's a broke law student who changed. I'm going to get so much heat for bringing this up again, but he changes his name legally to J.D. Vance after he gets out of law school. He's now, he meets Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel sets him up with a venture capital group. He writes a book that becomes a bestseller that is then made into a movie directed by Ron Howard and Netflix.
Before anybody heard of him.
Right. So now big tech, they what do they have, a moment of clarity like Pulp Fiction?
Michael, how many times have you changed your name?
Me or Michael Yon?
I changed it to Big Honey.
Yeah. No, but I mean, on your birth certificate, is it still what says on your passport?
Yep. I do know.
Me too.
Remember I told you about that cannibal I tracked down? He changed his name twice. So he's had 3 names. I tracked this American cannibal down in India. He was from Texas.
He
changed his name.
I was looking up I was looking up, did JD Vance actually get married in a Hindu ceremony, right? Because there's a picture of him where he's got the red dot. He's wearing like the flower lace, and they're both wearing like the Nehru outfits, as him and his wife. So I'm Googling, did he actually get married in a Hindu ceremony, right? And all these articles were like practically parallel, saying that Hindu ceremony convinced him to examine his faith, and that's why he became a Catholic. I'm like, what? And change his name to JD Vance. This is
Who's
like a
writing these scripts,
chameleon.
man?
This is a
all
professional
scripted.
chameleon.
It's all scripted stuff.
But-
I
but-
mean, this is a movie. This
don't-
is a big movie.
But don't you think that? So, like, to me, it's big tech, and now, and I'm going to credit. I know people don't like him, but I'm going to credit Nick Fuentes because he was talking about this early on too. Is the fact that it's going to move from illegal immigration to legal immigration, and that's what we've seen in the last couple of days. That it's getting out there now, but that's
Right.
all they're going to do is just move it over.
And that's where like Tom Homan, he's zeroed in on the illegals and deporting illegals. So I think it's a distraction to try to ask Tom Homan, what do you think about H-1B? And they're trying to conflate these to like dissipate the energy. Does that make sense?
Sandra Steele says hello, you guys.
Hello,
She's
Ann.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I hope I'm wrong about all this, but look, how did all of a sudden did big tech just jump on board?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just typed this really fast. Okay, I'm just quoting right from the internet because I just heard this I've heard it before, but in the 1950s, Werner von Braun, the former Nazi rocket scientist who became a key figure in the American space program, interjection. His book was called "I Aim for the Stars," and the joke was, the subtitle was "Sometimes I Hit London." Anyway, so Werner von Braun wrote a science fiction novel called The Mars Project. The story, set in the distant year of 1980, describes human colonists on Mars led by a figure with the title Elon, E-L-O-N. So you have to say, all right, that's like in the 1950s. How would Elon's father, was Elon's father a Werner von Braun science fiction fan? Right? I mean, or was what else was going on here that he would be named Elon? I lost my picture. Can you guys still see me? I guess
Yeah,
it doesn't
we got
matter.
you. We got you.
I see you.
Yeah.
So did Elon's father name Elon out of because it's a pretty unusual name, right? It's a pretty amazing coincidence. Or are we seeing some kind of like multi-generational dark forces at work here? AI on a level we can't comprehend, like almost like time travel or time bending kind of AI, because the worst thing to me, the worst and most dangerous aspect of Elon Musk by far is Neuralink. All right. And when I post about this, a lot of people are like, I have Lou Gehrig's disease. If they can put a chip in my mind and take away the pain and give me muscle control, I'm all for it. I get that, right? But anybody that thinks you're just going to sign up for Neuralink and get like the latest updated version of Neuralink so that you're just like hooked to AI and a super smart guy, you can like play the stock market better than anybody in history, that is a delusion. The idea of being hooked to AI on a first come, first served basis, like buying an Apple 17 phone, right? That is such a joke. Elon Musk has already been asked, well, what about if you get to Mars? Is there going to be like a democracy? And it's like, no, it's basically going to be more like corporatism. You had to sign up to get there, so you're going to have to obey by our corporate rules. Anybody that doesn't understand, this Neuralink is going to be the transhuman entryway, and it's going to be Elon's 100 tech bro buddies are going to get the Neuralink Ultra. And they, after that, are going to be unstoppable. They'll be God, and Elon will be Neuralink Ultra Plus. He'll always have the Neuralink that's 2 upgrades above his 100 lieutenants, and they'll always have the Neuralink that's 1 upgrade above the 1,000 lieutenants. And the rest of us are going to be just out of Huxley's Brave New World. It's the alphas, the betas, the gammas, the deltas, the epsilons. They're just going to make it official, and they'll be so much smarter than us. They are literally convinced. And this is something that over the
I wish
Christmas,
them the best. And their drugs. Elon Musk is an open druggie. He's a druggie. He's openly got a drug problem. He pushed the death jab. You think I'm putting something in my brain made by a dope smoking druggie?
But thousands will line
Who
up.
got the jab wrong? He got the jab wrong.
Thousands will line up for it. Thousands will
Have
line
fun.
up for it. They will wait for a week overnight, like it's a Rolling Stones ticket to get the Neuralink. And the people
I'm sure
that
they
believe,
will.
the people that believe his Mars BS, Mars, just to ground a little reality, Mars has 38% of our gravity. It's minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's almost no measurable atmosphere. So you're going to have to live under a glass dome like a fish in an aquarium that I've spoken about very often. You're not going to be like Matt Damon walking around on Mars because there's no atmosphere and it's minus 80.
Can I say something on that, Matthew? This is important because, the dope smoking ultra genius who's got the gigafactory over there in Germany, who told people that the science is unequivocal. That was his exact words for the jab. Now, he couldn't get over to his gigafactory in Germany without taking the jab. That's what he said. Misako and I went to Germany at least twice at the same time period, and we never took the jab. So this guy who says, I'm going to go to Mars, and he's like, I'm running the program, he can't figure out how to get to Germany without taking the jab.
So
we did it, and we're not ultra dudes.
So Trump was super, super impressed when the Mars rocket came down and got grabbed by the 2 arms, okay? Super impressed. Everybody was impressed. It's an impressive feat. There at Cape Canaveral, or in Texas, at Corpus Christi, down at you've been there.
Boca Chica. I've been there like 50 times, literally.
Right there at the border, the southern tip of Texas that he bought. I don't think that Elon Musk was like the Einstein putting all that physics together. I think that
he's too high.
Well, but I mean,
he can't even figure out how to get to Germany without taking a jab.
But when I think,
man, he's an actor.
I have to think he's a front man.
He's a front man. He's an actor.
How did Werner von Braun write a novel in the 50s where Elon goes to Mars and a South African immigrant named Elon is going to Mars, and he's jumping around on the stage with Trump wearing a jacket, but it says Occupy Mars under it, acting the clown and the fool, and we all love it because we saw his rocket land and get grabbed by the arms. It's very impressive, okay? And something that you always talk about is the cheese and the trap. If somebody is going to, let's just call him Lucifer or Satan maybe, right? We're going to give you the fruit of the tree of knowledge, right? You're going to bite this apple and have all the knowledge, right? That was what? Mankind getting cast out. It's an allegory. It's a biblical story, right? It's a Old Testament thing. We're going to give you the Neuralink, the tree of knowledge. You're just going to chip it into your brain. Well, to believe that, you have to put the best cheese in the world ever. The caviar of cheese has to be on the trap. So the guy selling you the cheese on the trap has to be such a great salesman. He's got to land rockets and catch them. He's got to have self-driving cars that'll parallel park for you, right? Never mind that it could also drive you into a jail or off a cliff. Once you give over driving, with your hands on the wheel, and I got the latest software update. I turned on my car in San Diego. It parked me in San Francisco. I took a nap. The same thing could drive you off of Highway 1.
Michael Hastings, whatever.
Michael Hastings, into a tree, fireball.
I went to see that tree he ran into, by the way. I was there for meetings over in Hollywood. Anyway, I don't know what happened
Well,
to him. He hit that tree pretty hard.
But it was a Bluetooth Mercedes.
So
Yeah.
A hackable Bluetooth Mercedes.
Pete Canones was on here last week, and we were talking about movies, and we were talking about Sicario, both 1 and 2. And, but the question came up of, and this is what it's making me think of this, is it better to do a deal with the devil you know versus the devil you don't know? But it's still the devil. And I feel like that's the situation that we're in right now with some of these guys because, is big tech, they're the devil.
Well, it's a lot of it's biblical. I mean, I can't help feeling these biblical vibes, like these signs and wonders, right?
But what kind of deal was
even,
made, Matt,
even
though?
like
That's
somebody
what I mean.
will be shot in the head but live. I'm not sure if that's exactly Trump or if like Trump is like John the Baptist. That's not the real person that gets shot in the head and then lives. All these revelation kind of contexts. But the signs and wonders, oh, look at this Mars rocket. It's coming down and being caught. The man's the super genius. He's got a car that will park
But he can't
itself.
figure out how to get to Germany without taking the death jab. Okay.
But that people don't care about that. Michael, you and I are talking about little stuff at the edges. His fans are seeing catching rockets, landing rockets, signs and wonders. And obviously the best thing to do is get that chip planted in your head so you can be as smart as God.
Yeah. Okay. I
You
just
don't
read
see a
some
problem
books,
with that,
read the
people? I
Bible
mean-
and things like that, and go out and listen to monkeys and birds talk, and I feel smart enough. You know what I mean? I really don't want to. And what am I going to do? Get Wikipedia put in my head? You know what I'm saying? Okay, I got Wikipedia, all from the mainstream media's now in my head.
Well, you know that anybody under Musk is going to get, version ultra won't be as good as version ultra, right? And if you've got the second or third tier version of Neuralink, you're basically going to be told everything to obey the guy with the top Neuralink. Everything will be.
Imagine when somebody hacks into your head now and they download all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, you'll jump off a cliff. So,
Yeah.
So to me, it's great. We're going into 2025. Trump will probably be inaugurated. But there's a lot of other stuff is going on. These ships are dragging cables or anchors across the Baltic Sea and cutting like gas pipelines and fiber optic cables and electric cables. And nobody's even mentioning, wait a minute, didn't we blow up Nord Stream? Wasn't that kind of like the first shot of that?
And remember who predicted that many months in advance and went to Germany twice predicting it openly. And the last time we were there was 14 days before we went to BASF 14 days before Nord Stream got blown up. I was there with Masako saying, I think something's going to happen to Nord Stream. And then boom, something happened to Nord Stream.
Now this Substack I follow, he's also on X, named Simplicius. He's talking about this Ursa Major, like the big bear, the ship that got sunk off of Spain in the Med. It's a major debate now. Was it an accident inside the engine room? Well, Russia is winning the ground war, obviously, but some of the weapons we have come up with have been very bad for Russia. They can put a semi-submersible drone boat, pod boat, into the Black Sea. It can go way out towards Turkey and come into like a harbor in Crimea of Sevastopol, from any crazy direction, long range, and it's guided by what? Starlink. Okay. Straight into a ship, and they use Starlink guidance. So any ship in the Mediterranean can plop out one of these boats like a torpedo. Remember, not all torpedoes are fired from submarines.
Show that, Michael. Show that again. Was that a Starlink you were showing, Michael?
Yeah, somebody sent it to me. Sat123.com. I can't seem to get the thing working.
Yeah, is that the Mossad version?
Yeah, man. I was meeting with a pilot.
Is that
today.
the exploding Mossad version? Did it come with the exploding battery pack?
I know. I was with a pilot today, and he mounted one of these on his little inside of his airplane. He's got one. I said, it works? He goes, yeah, it works.
I am never ordering anything digital off the internet again. I'm going to only buy it out of one of these kiosks in the middle of Panama City or somewhere, because if you order it, it probably came from a cutout from Mossad. And when they get tired of you, they're just going to detonate it when it's a foot from your head.
No, I get it. I totally get it. Yeah.
Anyway, but these surface drone, it's like a torpedo that guides by Starlink. It's the easiest thing in the world now to drop one of them off a freighter anywhere within a couple 100 miles of a Russian ship and hit it. And what can you do? There's no submarine attached to it. So we're seeing an escalation in this all-around war, the dragging cables. That's probably like Russian cutouts doing that to NATO countries in the Baltic, since we did Nord Stream and cut off Germany from cheap Russian gas. Now I think Ukraine is probably extending their Black Sea drone, their drone torpedo boat. It's like a semi-submersible bomb that has very long range, guided by Starlink, straight into a Russian ship. If you do something in the middle of the ocean, like there's even right now a Russian LNG tanker that can't go anywhere. It's like been banned, so it's like a lost at sea. We're now building and putting online new LNG gasification or liquefaction plants in Texas and Louisiana to send to Europe at 5 times the cost of Russian gas. So it's like, hey, don't worry, Germany. You can buy all the natural gas you want from Texas and Louisiana. It'll cost you 5 times more. So if one of these LNG ships has an accident in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, we'll never hear it or see it. It'll just be a fireball that, a satellite will pick up. And nobody will claim it. People will just say, well, maybe somebody was smoking where they shouldn't have been smoking. It's a dangerous thing. Natural gas, compressed natural gas, right? I mean, if you had an accident, it's very plausible that it just blew up on its own. So we're starting to see a ratcheting up of the kinetic side. It's still deniable, right? It's unrestricted warfare, still deniable. Like we're still denying we did Nord Stream, but the whole world with a 3-digit IQ knows we did Nord Stream, right? I mean, period. So we're going to start.
I was in Buenos Aires recently, and I sat next to a German couple, and they were speaking Hochdeutsch, very good Hochdeutsch. They were speaking very pristine German, and I listened to them talk for a while. And then I spoke with them in German, so I was talking German with them, so I drifted over into Nord Stream, and so I asked them who they thought did it. I think I told you this, and they thought Russians did it. Can't make up the stuff, man.
Brainwashing works.
Yeah, you can't make up the stuff.
Brainwashing works. I mean, you hear the message all the time. You don't want to be the black sheep, the outlier.
Yeah.
You want to be in the herd.
I have 2 suspects for Nord Stream. One is Americans, and 2 is space aliens. It's either Americans or space aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, I can't think of anybody else, really.
Yeah, but we're gonna start seeing like, something happened to a ship here or there. And we're just going. It'll be deniable for a long time.
The next day after Nord Stream, that other pipeline, the Baltic, it opened up right into Poland. It goes from the North Sea through Denmark and opened in Poland the next day.
And there are still pipelines going across, even with everything going on. There are gas pipelines crossing Poland and Ukraine, still bringing gas to Europe. I mean, it's unbelievable, but it's true. And then you got the whole Syria situation with the potential Qatar, Turkey, Europe gas line, and then there's another one which was like going to go across like Saudi, Jordan. Everybody wants to compete for these because there's so much money. When you're talking about billion-dollar deals, and you can offer the chief of every single county along the pipeline millions of dollars to protect it. So everybody wants a pipeline across their turf, that owns that turf, because they're just going to get paid so much money. Then you've got potentially oil and gas in the Med off of Gaza. I mean, the narratives that we are sold are like a child's puppet show, just sold to children. The real narratives, I mean, now when I watch Lawrence of Arabia, I'm just thinking, the British are getting the oil in Saudi Arabia. They're setting the Wahhabi, radical Muslims against the whole world. But as long as Britain gets the cheap oil, So what? I mean, when you watch that movie the first 20 times, you're just thinking, great, some nice British people are helping these poor Saudi tribal chieftains to defeat the Ottoman Empire. But it was setting the whole state, it's just an oil war. And the thing that you see on the front page of the newspaper back then or on the internet now, it's a narrative. We're just sold narratives.
Don't you guys find this incredible that as we sit here in the last month, we touched on Syria, we've talked about Romania, we've talked about Georgia, we haven't talked about South Korea, how they've declared martial law for whatever was a minute. Germany, their government's collapsed. France, right? I feel like I'm missing somebody in there. Canada's close with Trudeau, and London and England, I don't think is too far behind either. I mean, is it not just incredible that this is all happening almost simultaneously within weeks?
And the mass forced migration is a common thread in a lot of the European countries and Canada. I mean, a lot of the H-1B visa fraud is like people coming out of Canada. Like Canada becomes a stepping stone. It's easier to get to Canada than easier to get to America. So yeah, Britain totally invaded.
Canada's dead. I mean, we went up there earlier this year. Went, from Toronto to Vancouver and up the Yellowknife. It's gone, man. I mean, they've crossed the Rubicon. In my view, they're gone.
Yeah, they can't come back from this. It's just going to be a fight between the Sikhs, the Muslims, and the Hindus, and the Canadians will just be
and the Chinese. Chinese are thick up there. I mean, they train with the Canadian Army,
especially in the Northwest and Vancouver, British Columbia. Canada is just like a carcass being carved up right now. Who's going to get which parts of the turf? Nobody wants the maritime provinces. China gets British Columbia. The Hindus and Sikhs and Muslims will fight over Ontario, and Canadians, nothing left for them.
No, they're scattering through the winds.
Otherwise, we're really optimistic about next year. It's all great.
Weirdly, I'm happy, and I don't even know why. I mean, I have nothing to be happy about, and God has blessed me with eternal happiness.
I never thought I'd make it to 2025, and folks,
I never thought I would make it to 25 with all the dangerous stuff I was doing back then, but I did, and I'm still rolling.
The most dangerous thing you do now is get on and off all these crazy airplanes.
That's true, because I don't drink anything but water and coffee.
How do you guys feel about?
I don't do any of these dangerous things that people like the doper Joe Rogan does. Taking all these chemicals and drugs in them all the time.
What's that thing that expands your brain? Ayahuasca or something?
Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel going into 25? I mean, Matt, the first 100 days. Where do you think this goes?
I mean, I'm amazed that I made it to 2025. I was born in 1957. I'm amazed. I'm here watching 2025. I'm glad Trump won, and I use my favorite analogy. And if you haven't seen the movie,
I've seen it. I actually just saw it.
Yeah. If you have to be on an airplane that's, has like major mechanical failures, you want drunk Denzel Washington is better than a suicide guy that is aiming to fly it into the mountain. The Russian airplane, the Azerbaijan airplane over the Caspian, I think like half of them survived, right? And a crash landing where half survive is better than like Korea, into the wall. So,
there's a silver lining around every mushroom cloud. But I mean, I have a different way, way of looking at this thing, like Kamala the whore and all that stuff. I mean, these are just actors and actresses, right? I mean, it's like the difference between jumping out of the 99th floor on the east side or the 100th floor on the west side. I mean, it's the same building with the same architecture and the same architects. I mean, this is clearly a kayfabe that's unfolding.
Yeah, we're in the movie theater watching the screen that's being projected for us, and we have to figure out who created the movie, who's controlling the reels, who's behind the screen, because what we're seeing is a narrative created for us to see. Because, and I think it came out very clearly during the pandemic, probably most clearly in Britain, because there were people that were like whistleblowers. The British Army, like, the CIA, oh, they're not supposed to spy on Americans. The British Army used their own psyops units that was nicknamed the Nudge Unit. So the British Army was throttling people talking about the jab and amplifying people saying it's great, it's safe and effective. So the British Army was directly involved in a psyop against their own people. And if people don't think that that's happening in the United States, it absolutely is.
And the King of England, I mean, seriously, you wouldn't even have coffee with that guy if he didn't wear that funny outfit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's an idiot. I mean, he's turned his back on his people, which means his kingdom is dead. It's a dead man walking.
Yeah, you can see pictures of him with Klaus Schwab like 30 years ago.
Yeah, he's nothing but a condom. I mean, the King of England is a condom.
Well, and you were experiencing the censorship too. Is in the last couple of days, you've seen it with Elon, where he dropped the hammer on people for questioning him, and
who did that? Who dropped the hammer?
Elon did.
Elon.
He canceled accounts.
He's a drug addict, man. He's a drug addict. I mean, you don't know when he's tweeting on drugs. I mean, he's openly a drug addict. I mean, the fact is, he talks about his problems, right? I mean, so it's not like it's conspiracy theory unless he's lying. You know what I mean? He could be lying. But if I just take him at his word, he has a drug problem.
Well, I can't get past astronomical odds outcomes just don't happen in the real world. Okay. Once the Philadelphia Eagles played a game against the Chicago Bears like some years ago. It was the single double doink, I think, in NFL history, where the ball, the field goal kick hit one upright, then hit the other upright, and then bounced out. Okay? If you said, we're going to do that in the next game, it's going to happen, it would be impossible. Odds are impossible. Werner von Braun writes a book about going to Mars, and the character's name is Elon. And Elon Musk is going to Mars, and he's going to put chips in our brains for our own good. He even used the initials TFE. He said in a tweet during one of his rants, maybe I don't know. He said, "This is the biggest example of the TFE I've ever seen," and then like a laughing face.
What's a TFE?
Oh, excuse me. DKE. Excuse me. DKE sounds like a fraternity. Dunning-Kruger effect.
Oh, Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah,
we're too stupid.
Got some of that going on.
Yeah, but he's putting it in the context of us tech bros are the only ones smart enough to know that H-1B is good for us, betas and gammas and deltas and epsilons. That the alphas have to, the Brave New World alphas, the super brains, they've got to do the big head thinking for us because we're just Dunning-Kruger morons that are too dumb to know what's really in our best interest. So we should hand it to the tech broligarchs, right? And let them do the big thinking. And if you're lucky, you can get the chip put in your brain.
Doing on his ketamine, right? How much big thinking is he really doing? On his dope and ketamine.
But I guarantee you, when he says Neuralink is ready, they are going to be people lined up around the block to get it.
People will be lined up like Independence Day on the rooftop of buildings waiting for the aliens saying, "Welcome home. Welcome home." Do you remember that? Remember that, Matt?
Yeah. There's a Twilight Zone episode, a Rod Serling Twilight episode, and it's the alien spaceship has landed, and everybody is like lining up to get on the alien spaceship to go to like alien paradise, and the punchline is that their book, which they've only translated the title as "To Serve Man," it's a cookbook. That's the punchline. It's a cookbook. You're all getting on the spaceship to be food for aliens. This is Americans or anybody in the world. Give me the Neuralink. I'm going to Mars. It's like Werner von Braun, Elon Musk. It's like, this is not, you can't say on next Sunday, I'm going to kick the ball and hit 2 field goal uprights and bounce back. It just doesn't happen.
Naivety is naivety is a state. Gullibility is a trait. You know what I mean? I mean, some people are just perpetually gullible. They will be gullible from now till the end of time. But but naivety is just a state. It can be cured quickly with experience. But you can be naive and made a mistake and whatever, but you don't make the mistake again and again and again, or you don't get duped by somebody over and over and over, right? But there's obviously they play to the gullible crowd and are experts at making cults and these sorts of things. The psyop, the psychological warfare is so intense. Remember, intoxicants are the grease of psychological operations. You first want to get them high and isolated and tired. So we've got these clowns like Doper Joe Rogan and the Doper, what's that guy, Elon Musk. You got these guys doped up all the time and modeling for young people to stay doped up, right?
Yeah, in Brave New World, it was Soma. In Brave New World, everybody could have Soma and feel good about themselves.
That's right, Soma.
But that this is right now in the between the holidays and this the off week before New Year's, things are not doing bad. The stock market hasn't crashed. The grid is working. There's no mega blizzard somewhere that just buried. I mean, in Western North Carolina, still sucks to be there. No help coming for them from the federal government. They're the wrong demographic. But in general, America is cruising along pretty well. So all of the psyops and psychological pressures and backroom deals we're talking about is happening when things are working. What we saw with the pandemic was use a crisis to leverage the controls, to leverage the suppression of dissidents, to leverage the censorship. We can only anticipate going into 2025, all of the background control, censorship, all of that. What's going to happen if there is a stock market crash? What's going to happen if there is a financial crisis? If a supply chain breakdown, the food doesn't get delivered to the stores. So everything we're saying in this show, put it in the context of add another layer of difficulty to people living, and most Americans will line up for whatever is coming. Give us the shot, give us the free food, tell us where to go. Most people are herd animals.
And they want to be told what to do. And people can talk a good game after what came after from a few years ago. I don't want to say the word on here. There's two words I don't want to say, but for people that know, from standpoint where I put this video, the two words. But the fragility of our society, and you saw it, and it's still there. And I look at. It is what it is where we're at. I mean, this is what I believe. Call it black pilled. I don't look at myself as black pilled.
Well, a lot of people will not take another jab. That's good.
Yeah, but I think if it's
because they're dead.
If it's the right situation to the point where they scare people enough into something, not the previous word I'm not going to say from 5 years ago, that time period, but if it's something else, they scare people enough, they'll comply because they want to be told what to do. Yeah. I really believe that.
What happened to all the drones? Remember that psyop? They dialed the drone psyop, then they dialed it back down. I thought they were going to get ready to tell us that there's aliens among us. So clearly that's the federal government doing a psyop, dialing it up and dialing it down. It just went away. It's gone.
I tell people, all the aliens, you want to go see aliens? Go to your local Walmart. There's plenty of them there running around.
Yeah, in the zipper suit. Lizard people.
But I wish, I guess some people learned, but I just don't see it. And even let me bring something else to you guys. I know we're kind of running out of time. You all right for a few more minutes?
Yep.
A little bit, yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about this whole Doge thing, right? Because Vivek and Elon are heading that up. So when they get into this, if they start getting into the government, because it's the Department of Government Efficiency, if they start cutting out jobs, what ethnicity are a lot of these jobs holding? If it's majority black or majority white, let's say it's majority black, and they start cutting those jobs that they find are not useful, what is that going to do to the country?
Yeah,
how is Vivek going to be able to do that?
Oh, that'll be the Democrat counterattack, is disparate impact, that it's racist because all of these federal employees that haven't been to work in 4 years The only people in the Department of Agriculture are the janitors and the security. Everybody else is quote unquote wink wink been working from home. You know, but they're drawing a paycheck to do absolutely nothing. Well, when they're fired, it's going to turn out that they are protected minorities, and that's going to be the Democrat
Gentlemen, I
counterattack.
gotta go.
Yeah,
Sorry
me
about
too.
that.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah,
Where
me
can
too.
people find you, Michael?
I'm on Panama Canal, but I'm on Substack and I'm on Twitter, and so I'm on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, and every day I'm on the drug addict guys platform X. So Michael_Yon and on Substack as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Michael. Matt, can you finish your thought on that real quick before you jump off?
No, it's good.
Gentlemen,
Go ahead, Michael. Thanks.
I do have to go. Okay.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
I'll talk. Thank you.
No, I'll punch out too. But all of Michael's plane tickets. Basically he's traveling the world, living out of a suitcase, no fixed address, and we're gonna miss him when one of those airplanes has a bad landing, which the number of airplanes that he takes is astronomical. But yeah, he needs the financial support, and I know what you mainly are doing Venmo to keep this going.
I Venmo, PayPal. I got Zelle. I got a PO box. I even have Wise for international and locals and Patreon.
How do people find that?
Every single episode, publish notes on either the audio or the videos. They're now on YouTube and Rumble.
Is Rumble the best? What do you recommend? Rumble,
YouTube, and then all the podcasts, Apple, Spotify. So every single episode, the ways to donate or contribute are on my show notes.
Okay, I've got I did since it won't come. I can't do one of these deals for the same day, but a couple of my books I put on a Kindle free run, which means it'll be like a free download for the 31st and the 1st. So a couple of my books, look on Kindle. I'll put some stuff out on X about it, but I haven't done that in a long time. I just haven't been really promoting my books a lot. But yeah, my books are on Amazon and especially if you want to get the ebook or the Audible versions, or you can get the books directly from me. And I'll sign them. The information's like on my website and here and there. To get signed copies straight from me, it works better for me. But tomorrow, the 31st and the 1st, a couple of my books will be on Kindle free runs, so you can just do the free download. But otherwise, that's the best way to help me out is buy the books, read the books, spread the word. But yeah, this is a good show. End of year, probably one of the last ones before we kick over a new quarter of a century, right?
We'll see, and we'll see what happens. It's been 25. The carousel is just going to. I mean, it didn't really stop, but there's going to be. I think, and I wish none of this was happening, but it provides a ton of opportunity for what we're doing because there's going to be so much to talk about, and I'm just really thankful. Michael jumped off before I had a chance to thank him, but the fact that you've been willing to come on so many times. I can't thank you enough, and for all your support and everything you've done for me. So, thank you.
It's interesting to give the perspective of a guy that one of my first memories was Kennedy assassination. I was like 6 years old, and I can remember on TV watching the caissons, the procession, Jacqueline Kennedy and the children that are now like the Robert F. Kennedy era. I mean, I actually remember that. I can remember Lyndon Johnson saying he would not run again. So I have that perspective. Vietnam War, I was just a kid, but it was on the news constantly all the way through. I voted, my first election I voted for was Reagan in 1980. First presidential election was Reagan. So yeah. I can bring some of that perspective. Like this isn't the first time we've had a go at Panama. And, I remember Jimmy Carter giving it away. It was like, where did that come from? We got a treaty. It's ours forever. How can the president just give it away? And Panama's so weak, it just means somebody strong like China is going to come in and take it. It's like what Michael calls it, a pork chop hanging around your neck. If you can't protect it, some strong dog is going to just run off with it. And, who knows, maybe Trump can turn this thing around, but he's been silent on the H-1B that I can tell. I haven't seen any verifiable Truth Social posts from him. So who knows? There's probably a huge battle going on in the background. The Stephen Miller faction versus the Vivek faction. Nobody elected Vivek or Elon. And I'm thinking more and more that they're more actors on the stage. I mean, Peter Thiel was behind a lot of these people's rise to prominence. I mean, what are the odds of all these connections being made? It goes back to the long odds of like Werner von Braun, the Nazi rocket scientist, making a science fiction book in the 50s, going to Mars, led by a man named Elon. And then Elon Musk's father names him Elon, and he's going to Mars. It seems like we're being swept down a river, and it's already been plotted out. And we're just trying to grasp what in the hell is really going on. Because the odds of all these things happening, J.D. Vance meeting Vivek, meeting Peter Thiel, the book, the movie, it all just seems so scripted. It's just like we don't even understand. We're in a movie theater watching a movie.
Yeah, and I think Dave Collins said this, and if you step away from it even for a couple of days, you have to be paying attention all the time. And for the people that are casually just like watch Fox News, end of the night, you can't keep up with all this. Like the carousel, it's just there's so much being thrown at you all the time.
Yeah, I'm thinking more and more like who's smart is Matt Smith with a ranch in Uruguay. We can blast ourselves to bits and have a radioactive dark winter up here, and it'll just be another summer in Uruguay or Casey down in Argentina.
Matt, as always, thanks for coming back on, and I'm sure it won't be that long before we talk again.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2025.
Mic drop.